Please find yourself a comfortable seat, posture for practice. The breath is a good friend, but the mind is powerful enough on its own, especially if we sit regularly, because the mind's the problem. And so the mind realizes I'm I'm the problem. And now all of a sudden the problem goes away. But it has to understand this. It has to give it some time and space to realize this. And so listening to the breath, even doing your yoga postures or qigong, whatever sort of embodiment practice, even just studying, reading philosophy, gives the mind time and space. Some techniques give time, some techniques give space. And this practice, when we sit here, that's essentially the similar idea. To give the mind time and space to sort itself. To understand itself. And it's a little bit like dressing yourself at a mirror, figuring out your hair and those things. It's sorting itself. You're not going to fundamentally change anything by whatever sort of ritual or habit you have at your mirror, but you're going to sort things. And that's what this work's about. It's about sorting oneself out. Not like the image in a mirror, but the mind is sorting itself out. It's coming to understand how things work, how it works. This takes a certain amount of time. And if the mind is so overwhelmed and busy with its confusions, it's very hard for that sorting to ever really take place. And some minds just don't have that kind of interest. They're perfectly fine just trying to solve the mind's problems by achieving and accomplishing the things that it wants from its world. See, the mind builds the world. Inside the mind, we believe that we are inside the world, and then we do things in the world to go get things. But if we spend a little bit of time with it in the sorting out of the mind starts to realize, oh, I create the world. I create. And these things, the world is actually dependent on the mind. Remove the mind, the world goes away. But you take your world away, you lay on your couch, close your eyes, your mind's still there, telling you all kinds of problems. But if you've had the experience of the mind going away, you'll know that the world most certainly goes away with it. The world is inside the mind. Collection of thoughts and memories, beliefs. And the mind is inside awareness. The mind can go away, awareness can exist. Without the mind, without the world. This is the understanding. Many of us have already understood, or just deepening that understanding, or discovering that understanding. And so firmly rooting ourselves in that understanding is what I mean by the mind sorting itself out. Eliminating its confusions. One of those confusions is thinking that we're in the world. No, the world is in the mind. And for some, they can just hear me say that, and that's maybe good enough. Or maybe you have to work it through yourself. See it logically in your head, reason it out, work it through the proof, experience it. It's part of what this sitting time is. And sometimes we need some space in order to even sort something like that out. That the world is inside me. And so working on something like the breath while we sit, working with something like the breath while we sit can be helpful because it creates some space in addition to the time that we're giving to the practice. In order to get some space in the mind through the means of the breath, we are intentionally just suspending our interest in the mind's thoughts. We're going to say, hey, the best we can, we're going to choosing the idea of choice. That's something for the mind to sort out as well. But in the meantime, since we believe there's such thing as choice, we're going to choose to lose some interest in our thoughts and focus our interest on the breath to provide some space so that when we go back and watch our mind, we can sort out the world is inside the mind, there's no such thing as choice, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to temporarily suspend our, I know, really juicy subjects, no choice, the world is inside the mind. But in order to really sort it out, you got to have enough space in addition to time. You'll be able to lay it out on the table. And I know some of you have very cluttered tables. No. I'm just kidding. Focus your interest on the breath as an effort to make space. Very simple. Very simple. Feel the breath in and out through the nose. Longer, slower breath. Just listen. Listen and feel the flow of air in and out through the nose, into the lungs, and how the breath moving through the nose, through the lungs affects the body. You can feel the chest or the belly moving, rising and falling with each breath. Just trying to get a little bit of space. Beautiful part about this practice is no matter how far along you are, whether it's your very first time meditating, which is none of you, or you've been meditating for quite a bit, it's never gonna get old. Matter of fact, it only gets more enjoyable because getting space from the mind is enjoyable. That's why we're here. Once the mind sorts itself out, you get a lot of space. Feel the breath. Watch the breath. Listen to the breath. Turn your attention, turn your interest to the breath. Develop an appreciation. This is enough stimuli. You don't need bigger, brighter, louder. This is enough going on for your practice. The movement of the breath is enough. It'll make space in your mind. This is the first layer of sorting things out. Your mind can realize that just awareness of the breath is enough, is good enough. You have made space. Very simple understanding. You don't need more stimuli. You don't need more entertainment. You don't need more ahas or wows to make this experience, this moment, fulfilling. This breath is fulfilling enough. This is the first step for sorting the mind. Just watching the breath. It's okay. You notice, you find your mind trying to entertain itself with things it finds more interesting. Things in your life that are allegedly in the world. But all those things are in the mind. Practice. Practice the will of just choosing. This is part of the sorting process. Let's use the word choosing. Choosing to make breathing fascinating. That's all you have to do. It's like a commitment. You refuse the wandering. And even if the mind drags off, it'll get stronger. Your ability to love the breath, to be fascinated by, to be endeared to. Feel the breath, the wind on the nose, the expansion and contraction of the lungs, and the movement of the chest and belly. See the breath, hear the breath. This will make space in the mind so you can sort out the ideas of choosing, the idea that the world is inside the mind and the mind is inside awareness. That the mind is the actual and only problem. You can't do these things without space. Love of the breath will make space. You see, when you love something out in the quote unquote world, then your mind daydreams or tries to plan. How do I get that? How do I keep it? How do I get that again? But it can't do that with the breath because the breath's already here in space. That thing you want, that shiny thing you want, that's out there. You can't sort your mind that way. But the breath is already here. Want your breath. Feel satiated by breathing. Enjoy it. You're discovering in the mind the love for the breath. You don't have to desire it. You don't have to fear losing it. It's right there. Mind gets lost in a story. Just note, what was the desire or fear in the story? What was the craving or the aversion that you found more compelling than the breath? These are the roots of your ego. These roots build the world inside your mind. Things you find more important than the breath. If you don't have enough space, there's just too much, too many stories. You can't even keep track. If that's happening, guess what? Come back to the breath. And if you note the craving or the aversion in your story, good. Note it. And then guess what? Come back to the breath and make some more space in your mind. You don't have to link any statements tonight to your breathing. Just listen and feel the in and out breath. Your mind wants to tell you it's boring. It's just the same thing over and over. All your alleged problems are the same thing over and over. You just find them interesting because you think they'll lead to peace if you solve them. Your breath will lead you to peace if you listen to it. It'll make space in the mind so the mind can sort itself out. When certain things go your way in your life, you feel things, emotions. When things don't go your way, you feel emotions. When you breathe, there's an emotion there. You might not even know what to call it, but just breathe and feel the inhale. It's not just a physical sensation, there's an emotion there. Just work with the inhale emotion right now. Every time you get an inhale, feel that it brings an emotion. You don't have to name it, just feel the emotion. If you get lost, you lose interest in your breath and find yourself in a story inside your mind about that world allegedly outside your mind. What were you seeking in that story? Was there a desire or a fear, a craving or an aversion? These are the roots of the ego. The breath is enough. The breath can provide the feeling that is good enough. When you inhale, when you exhale, there's a feeling, an emotion to really being with your breath. And it's already here in space. You don't have to go get it. You don't have to avoid it. if you can find the feeling of the breath, the emotion of truly being with the breath. Again, you don't have to label it or name it, but you can actually start to just step into that feeling. Leave the breath. It's not really going to go anywhere. But you can begin to immerse yourself. You can follow that feeling beyond your mind. Try it. When you breathe and you savor and you appreciate that emotion, that feeling that comes with breath, you step the attention off of the actual movement of the breath and you pour yourself, pour the awareness into the feeling. This will absorb you. It'll take you beyond the mind. Rest your body. Relax from your practice.